Stop fixing the leak. Why does the same problem keep rearing your face? Take the systems thinker seriously. And I don't mean the systems thinker as some clever little prize for your bookshelf, nor do I mean the systems thinker as just a neat little map. No, the systems thinker is a knife against confusion. Albert Rutherford isn't asking you to just try harder. He is asking you to see the system. In this UpGoWise explainer, we are going to use Albert Rutherford's philosophy as a strict daily practice of self-mastery.
Because you might be tired for a reason you just keep misnaming. You call it weakness, you call it pressure, you call it life. And then, the exact same pattern returns, just wearing a new mask. The room gets smaller, your chest gets tight, your mind starts managing the smoke. So you do more, but the smoke just learns your schedule. This is where we enter that room with a colder, sharper question. What keeps making the smoke? Listen, exhaustion is not a personal flaw. It is not a lack of discipline. It's a highly predictable system output.
Section 1, the exhaustion loop, and the symptom leak.
Most people out there call exhaustion a personal problem. They'll tell you your discipline failed, so they just tighten their jaw and add another rigid rule to their day. But we absolutely must confront this. Your absolute cleanest decision habit, fixing the visible leak first, is exactly what keeps your nervous system completely loyal to your symptoms. Why? Because the habit looks responsible. It looks adult. It looks incredibly fast. You answer that late-night email. You put out that client fire. The trap here is moral language. People use words like lazy, scattered, weak, or intense. And those words, they stick right to your skin. Systems language, on the other hand, moves the knife away from the skin. It asks for links, delays, incentives, and borders. That move isn't cold. It's deeply humane. It gives your shame a lot less oxygen. And here is the quiet truth. When those unseen links stay unseen, your body pays for them.
Section 2. Speed starves feedback.
Your proudest habit is probably your speed. You answer fast, you clear the inbox by 7 a.m., you close loops before they even have a chance to teach you anything. But you need to realize that this mechanism is cruel. Speed starves feedback, and your body learns to read pressure as proof of your value. Then, insight only arrives with a late bill. One paradigm says that performance proves your worth. The other says performance reveals your design. That is the very first cut. Exhaustion isn't always about having too much work. Sometimes it's just bad architecture, repeated with a whole lot of pride.
So what if effort is actually camouflage for bad architecture? This is the core pain we're exposing here. You keep trying to improve the worker, but you leave the workshop completely untouched. You sharpen your focus, maybe downloading a new timer app. You fiercely protect your calendar. You build harder, stricter rules. And yet the exact same friction, the delayed approvals, the last-minute scrambles, just keeps eating your day. In strategy, that is not discipline. That is a system trap. A strategist doesn't just ask, what should I do? A real strategist asks, what is this action feeding? The old model worships output. The new model studies loops. Output flatters the ego for 1 hour. Loops tell the truth for years. You know the exact feeling. The task list is clean. The chest is not. The calendar looks controlled. The pulse feels hunted. That split right there, that's data. It means the visible system and the lived system completely disagree. This is exactly where so many incredibly bright people fail. They use their intelligence as a blade. They cut symptoms into smaller, cleaner pieces, and then they wonder why the floor stays wet.
Section 3. Stress becomes architecture.
A systems thinker doesn't worship the blade. A systems thinker asks why the cut keeps returning. The entire goal of this explainer is a paradigm shift. We have to stop hunting for a culprit just to get some temporary relief, and we need to start hunting for relations to get true leverage. One paradigm hunts for culprits, the other hunts for relations. A culprit gives you relief. A relation gives you leverage. Where exactly did the border you drew create the burden you carry?
I want you to imagine Antonio Gaudi's hanging chain model for the Sagrada Familia. Not the pretty postcard, the actual workshop. Small bags hanging from chains. The whole model is completely upside down. Each weight pulls, each line answers. No single chain argues for its own importance. No single chain carries the entire cathedral. The form only appears through its relation. Turn it over, and stress becomes architecture. That image is your anchor. We're not talking about beauty here. We're talking about load. A life also hangs from unseen weights. A late message pulls your sleep. An unclear promise pulls your attention. A hidden fear pulls every single choice you make. You don't shame a wall for cracking. You trace the load. You redraw the support. You remove the false weight. The nervous system hears that difference.
Boundaries define what counts as being inside the problem, and that choice is never, ever neutral. A narrow boundary creates personal blame. A wider boundary reveals the hidden structure. Section 4. Control versus constraint. Yet a boundary that's drawn too wide just becomes fog. The skill here isn't endless openness. The real skill is useful framing. That's exactly where strategy lives. It lives right between blame and fog. Which brings us to our third architectural reframing, shifting you away from the exhausting pursuit of grabbing every single moving part. One paradigm seeks control. The other designs constraint. Control tries to grab every moving part. Constraint changes what movement is even possible. Effort is just camouflage when it's protecting a broken loop. You can actually feel it in your body. The shoulders brace before the work even begins. The jaw tightens before the choice even appears. That isn't ambition. That is a warning. This lens turns strategy from brute force into smart arrangement. You stop asking yourself for more energy. Instead, you ask where your energy leaks. Maybe that weekly meeting isn't the actual problem. Maybe the decision rule is just fake. Maybe the conflict keeps returning because no boundary actually owns it. Maybe urgency is just a reward system wearing a clean shirt, like getting praised for working a weekend to fix a completely avoidable typo. Listen, a constraint is not a cage, it's a shape, and the right shape saves your strength. What does your system reward when no one is watching? That question isn't soft, it's surgical. The false belief tells you that exhaustion proves your seriousness. The system view tells you that exhaustion reports your design. When performance becomes your entire identity, every delay becomes a personal wound. Every mistake becomes a verdict. Every new request becomes a hand on your throat. This is the hidden cost. Competence can absolutely become a trapdoor. Others stop seeing the system. They only see that you're strong enough to carry it. Section 5. The Load-Bearing Link. Here's the one massive insight you need to carry forward. You aren't just solving isolated random events. You're actively training the exact system that produces your exhaustion. The problem keeps wearing your face because the system literally borrows your body. It borrows your pulse, it borrows your sleep, it borrows your patience, and then it calls the invoice character. Well, this explainer breaks that spell. It offers you a colder, sharper mercy. You can finally stop making every single outcome a self-portrait. One paradigm says, I failed again. The other says, a pattern fired again. That second sentence is not an excuse. It's the beginning of real responsibility. Responsibility means you can finally touch the design. You can change the reward. You can move the boundary. You can lengthen the feedback loop. You can also just stop feeding the wrong metric altogether. Not every finished task is actual progress. Some finished tasks are just payments made to a bad structure. That's why this mental upgrade feels so sharp. It removes the drama. It removes a bit of ego. It completely removes the private theater of self-blame. What remains is much cleaner: a map, a load, a link, a choice. We must target the leverage point, not the loudest pain, but the load-bearing link. Section 6. Map the system. Please do not begin with your entire life. Stop trying to fix everything all at once. Begin with one single repeated drain. Map it out. Write down the event. Write the trigger. Write the reward. Write the delay. Write the side effect. Once you've done that, circle the specific link that keeps that pattern alive. That link is your very next refinement. This shifts us away from abstract theory and right into strict architectural application. The very boundary you drew to protect yourself might be the exact thing making you so tired. Maybe you called it kindness. Maybe you called it excellence. Maybe you called it simply being reliable. Now I want you to ask the question cleanly. Which boundary is making me pay twice? Sit with that for a moment. Let the first automatic answer pass you by, because that first answer usually just protects the system. It's the second answer that might actually free you. This explainer doesn't promise you ease. It gives you a much harsher, much better gift. It separates your true worth from the heavy machinery built around your choices. Continue the internal transformation at upgowise.com. Deep dive the philosophy, map the system, spare the self.